Rock and roll! Hi, Thak Ironworks. Welcome back to the exciting conclusion of our Raven Skull cloak pins. So today I am going to make pins to go through there. We're going to drill the holes, we're going to finish these and do a grand reveal. So let's begin. So I'm just doing a simple pin on this. I'm using 1/4 inch round bar. I'm going to heat up both at the same time here. Just gonna flatten out the end. As I said, I'm going very simple on this. I want it to be kind of the counterpoint to all the detail on this skull itself. So I'm just fanning out the end. I've got a taper that's perhaps 1.25 inches long. So now I'm putting about 1 inch over the edge there. Just tapping it down over the edge and now just bringing it, I'm gonna get in a position here where you can see a little better. And I'm just rolling it back. And I'm trying to leave a big eye, maybe something with a 1/2 inch diameter inside. Something like that. Okay, so I'm gonna have my pin coming down and terminating into the beak here. And I'll show you what I'm doing with that in a little bit. But for now, I just want to cut it off about there, and then I'm going to draw out a bit of a point on there. Just drawing out a dull point. This doesn't need to be an actual needle. I'm not poking through fabric. I'm going through a Coyote pelt, which are surprisingly fragile. They tear quite easily. So I'm going to be putting holes through them to accept this. Okay, no big revelation here. I'm just drilling a hole in this little depression here. So I'll get my drill up here, and so you did a 1/4 inch hole there. I'm just going to get this 1/4 inch drift in now, and now I'm just kind of massaging out the edges and reaming this a little bit bigger. My needles are still hot, so I'm not going to be test fitting them for a second or two yet. Okay, I got impatient and I quenched it, so let's just see. Holy cow, it actually goes in place. I can't believe it. So that is what we're looking to do. What we're going to be putting in here is actually epoxy paste. I could braze a piece in there and do it, but this is all hidden behind, and I've spent a lot of time on this, and this is kind of one of those things where at this point I just want to make this thing functional, so we're going to go to that. At this point I should also talk about, I've had a couple of comments in the last video about my breakthroughs here, and again, breakthroughs are not a good thing in this particular aspect. So being fairly new to the pitch format, I wasn't really sure how much force I could go in with, and I think in future future builds, I should say, I'm going to have to be a little bit more careful. As I get to a certain point, I'll have to re-anneal and then go in at successive stages to be able to get an undercut like that. In this particular case, I'm not too upset about these little cracks and breakthroughs on the skull. It works. I don't know. I kind of like it. I will show you another project I'm working on now. Okay, so here's a project I'm working on, this gate where I'm doing this little repoussé panel, these dogs, and I wanted to go something with really high relief on this. I'm basically experimenting on this one and seeing how much I can push on the medium and get it there. But I did have some breakthroughs there, and I'll see if I just shine the light there. If you can see where it's sliced in there, and Eric, if you can come in tight here and try to get... So this kind of thing is where I'm going to have to develop a real sensitivity as to how much I can push a certain area. But we're going from an extreme high to a low. If you come in at an angle, you'll see how high this actually is. So that's a real change in plane that we're doing there quite quickly, and it's cracking through there. So this, I might end up raising that shut, which is a bit of a pain in the ass to do, but it can be done. And then there's cleanup because there'll be bubbles coming through there and stuff like that. But that's probably the best way to fix something like that. But as with the skulls, I'm not upset about that. I don't think that's a deal breaker in that particular case. Okay, so here are the two pieces, and both of them have the natural finish of just working through them, how they came out. They both came out radically different. This one, I think I had more pitch residue on there, and that's why we got this particular look. And I actually like both of them quite a bit. But I'm going to now put, I just found this on my shelf that I've had for years and years called Brass Black, which is like gun bluing. It's basically a nitric acid solution, but I haven't used this for a long time. So I'm going to just use this, and I'm going to put it on both of these as they are now and just basically nullify the effect on there, and then we'll end up with a very dark finish that I will then buff out the highlights. So here we go. All right, it's on there now. I'm just letting it sit for a moment or two. I think this one has achieved its appropriate blackness, darkness. So I'm just gonna go dunk that in water to neutralize it. Okay, while it's still wet, I'm gonna come in with some fine steel wool and just start buffing out the highlights. And it should be noted I'm wearing a mask. I find that the dust on this stuff is it gives me a headache, and it really bothers my nose. I think it's fairly toxic. Copper can be toxic in quantities like that. So that's something I always use when I'm doing when I'm sanding or grinding copper-based alloys. I do find when it's wet, that pretty much nullifies the effect, and I often like to do it wet. It tends to also diffuse things nicer. I like the effect of that better. So I'm just running this very fine sandpaper over the surface and just pulling up the highlights. I'm trying to leave a lot of dark spots in the crevices, and I really don't want to take off too much. So now I'm using a metal epoxy in a putty form. This is PC Fix that I'm using here. And I'm going to use that for the inside of the beak. So I just rip off a chunk, and then you have to massage it up in your fingers and mix the two components together. And then it is live, and you've got only a few minutes working time. 3 minutes according to the package. Okay, so that is massaged up now. I'm going to rip it into two equal sized chunks. And then I'm just going to make a little cone shape there and then shove that into the beak. So I think, as I mentioned, I would, if I was going fully traditional on this, what I would do is braze a piece over there, and that would become the catch, or the bottom part that would catch the pin. But in this case, when I do stuff for the film industry, it's always, it's just got to look good on camera. So on the inside, things are always done with tape and putty. Whatever you can to hold something in place. So I'm basically resorting to that mentality for this, and it'll work just fine. No one's going to see the inside of that. So I just massage up a little beak there, and then in it goes. Now, if I was concerned about the cracks in the eyes, I could also use putty here to just fill in the back, and I will, when I actually put this on and put it on the Coyote skin, if I've got hair poking through the eye holes and I don't like the effect of that, then I may end up putting some putty on the insides, but I'm just going to leave it at this point in time. I do kind of like that dilapidated effect on these skulls, that they're kind of beaten up. I think it's part of their charm. Okay, so I've got my putty in place there. I'm just going to let that harden up for a few moments, and then I'm going to drill my hole into there to accept the pin. Be right back. So I was just playing with the pin in here, getting ready for this as it hardens up, and then I realized I can, now that it's hardened up slightly, I can actually just push this in, and rather than drilling it out, I can actually create the exact taper and pocket for what I need here. So I am just positioning that in there and bringing my pin down till it bottoms out on the top there. So that is what I am doing. Okay, while I'm waiting for the epoxy to set up, it's hardening up nicely now. I'm just gonna put on some Sculpt Nouveau metal wax. It's just a clear metal wax that I use for a lot of my range hoods and things like that. It's good for patinaed surfaces. Another thing you can use is Ren wax. I happen to be out of that stuff right now. That's another good one for this sort of thing. Basically, this just seals everything in and gives it a nice low sheen luster. I'm actually going to leave the eyes. I'm not going to put any finish in there. I'd like, if they're going to antique up further because of the chemical, that is just fine. If they green up and get a little crusty on the inside, I think that's all pretty cool. So there we have it. You can see the difference there. Just finish off with the other one. And the grand reveal, here we are. So I'm thinking these guys might be a little bit buried in the Coyote pelt here. I might have to do like a leather perimeter or something plate that they sit on just to kind of delineate them. But all in all, I think I'm fairly happy with what's going on here. And there we have it. There's our cloak pens. So what I'm wearing here, as I talked earlier in the first video, this is my hobby in the evenings, just to keep my hands busy. I'm always doing stuff. And this is a leather armor that I'm making. In movie land, this would be considered armor. In the real historical world, this type of armor never actually existed. But I'm making this for my rental collection, and as far as what people's expectations are in film and that sort of thing, this particular piece, depending how it's accessorized, can fit into almost any genre. It could be like Persian, Greek, Roman, it could be gladiator, and can also be Viking and like transitional plate armor, that sort of thing. So it's got quite a bit of versatility as far as something that you can accessorize. Like Mongolian, I could also do that with it as well. But anyway, that's what we've got here. I think we'll call this video. Maybe I'll try making a little perimeter for these guys and seeing if they don't get lost quite as much in my cloak. But there we have it. So if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. Leave your comments below and catch us in some upcoming videos. Thak out. See ya!